Welcome everyone to the session called From Zero to Hero. Ignite your company's AI strategy by starting an AI council. Now, I just want to kick off by mentioning that this is not a judgment on you or your organization. Zero doesn't mean that's what you are, your team is. It means that that's where you're starting. You're starting something new, something exciting. And this is what is going to be the catalyst for taking your company, your team, and your career to the next level. Today, the focus will be around AI literacy. Each of the sections we cover will be focused on how to scale your efforts to get AI in the hands of people in your company and achieve your goals, whatever they are. And the AI Council is the way that you do that. Now, there's going to be three of us today, all from VMware's global marketing team, talking about how we started our own marketing AI council and practical steps on how you can get there. It's important to note, we all have full-time jobs. Creating a marketing AI council is something we do above and beyond that. We do it in addition to everything else on your plate, just like most of you will be doing. You all have things to do on a day-to-day basis. And this is going to be something that you'll have to do in addition to everything. But the results can be really amazing. So today, I'll be joined by Jessica Hreha, Michelle Moore, both part of the global marketing team. Jessica, the founder of Marketing AI Council, she was very forward-thinking. She's been on stage at MACON talking about Marketing AI Council. So, and Michelle Moore was at MACON as well. So we've got a group of people who are really leading. I've been super excited to work with these two people and the rest of the Marketing AI Council team who are leading this industry, leading this effort at VMware. So throughout the sessions, Jessica, Michelle, and I will draw from our experience starting a council and scaling the effort to create an AI literate global marketing organization in order to show you how to start one of your own. We'll start out with a high-level overview, the rise of AI in business. Then we'll talk about how to lead with AI in your organization, cover why and how to start an AI council, how to create AI usage guidelines, how to promote AI literacy and adoption, share real-life use cases for generative AI, and in the end, we'll give you an idea of really how to get started. All right, so the rise of AI in business. AI is being adopted across all industries in many ways. It started off with traditional AI ML, but with the explosion of generative AI and large learning models, companies are now beginning to apply some of these new capabilities that these new models have to differentiate themselves within the market, as well as solve some of the same business outcome problems they've been having for years. Each year, I have the pleasure of hosting an executive summit at VMware. This one was in Las Vegas this year. We gathered together about 150 CIOs and technology leaders from some of the largest companies in the world to discuss what's working, what's not, and what's next. This year, the conversation was dominated by generative AI. I could talk at length with Peter Shen, for example, who's the head of digital health at Siemens, $72 billion healthcare technology company with about 300,000 employees. He was talking about looking through the lens of patient outcomes and applying new technologies in order to create better solutions. I had another conversation with Vishal Gupta, CIO of Lexmark, which is a global manufacturer. He was thinking very deeply about approaching the security, compliance, and privacy concerns that come with taking your proprietary data and leveraging it for large learning models. I also had a conversation with financial services organizations like Sunflower Bank and America First Credit Union. And through these conversations, there was a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for the possibilities that AI could have for their business, for their customers, for their patients, and for their employees. But also, they had some concerns, and we're facing some real challenges. One big one was a need for skills and talent. Companies need data scientists. They need machine learning engineers. And they also need many people who worked on their teams didn't have the specialized skills to create, train, fine-tune these models in order to produce the results they're looking for. And during our working sessions and engagement throughout the event, it was clear that people and culture were the dominant pieces of the puzzle. Then there was the issue of how to invest in AI infrastructure, not just raw compute, storage, and networking. There were more strategic concerns with regards to whether or not to consume a large language model at a hyperscaler like Amazon or leverage an open source model and build their own in-house. And the key theme that ran throughout all conversations, however, is that the companies must start exploring AI now to remain competitive and drive innovation. And an AI council helps align business and IT leaders so that the organization can turn those potentials, that enthusiasm, that vision into reality. Now we're just starting to see some really good data come out from some surveys that are being put into market about what's going on, what people are doing. This particular one comes from the Marketing AI Institute in partnership with Drift in their 2023 State of Marketing AI report that was just released. In this we see 50% of companies are adopting AI. Now, it's important to note that this is growing at a low double-digit rate, but that growth is only going to accelerate. However, with that growth, we're seeing that 78% of employers have no internal AI-focused education training. This is huge. It's a huge barrier to creating an AI-literate workforce, which is one of the reasons we created the Marketing AI Council at VMware. One of the reasons why this training is so key is because a lot of people have legitimate fear that their job is going to be disrupted or eliminated because of these artificial intelligent tools. One of the big themes that is going to be woven throughout our session today is that when you're looking at these technologies, you have to look at these as AI plus human, not AI replacing humans. So if you launch one of these internal AI-focused education programs, you start to alleviate the fear because people see that their jobs are being augmented rather than being automated away. And as we can see in the survey, 40% believe that more jobs will be eliminated, but 36% believe that more jobs will be created. So there's some optimism in the shift. You may also hear some stats coming out of recent McKinsey report talking about how over 80 million jobs will be eliminated because of artificial intelligence. But that same report, they say they're likely to have over 90 million jobs created because of artificial intelligence. So what we really says is that you're going to have an augmentation of current roles, a shift, and you're going to have a transition of skill sets from one activity to another based on how artificial intelligence will augment the way that we do what we do every day. Now, and with that, I want to start covering the ways in which our roles will be augmented. Now that we have affordable generative tools or generative AI tools that are seemingly ubiquitous, though there's uneven AI distributions in the world, and I could spend a whole session just talking about that. Those of you listening to this most likely have access to models that can understand text, audio, video, ingest images, tools that can generate high quality code and creative content, models that can summarize hundreds of pages of documents and perform deep analysis of data, that can turn content into actual takeaways, to extract meaning from raw information that was previously impossible to sort through, and to help develop strategies and tactics that move your business forward. And the effect of these capabilities is, of course, the expectation that we'll see efficiency gains. Here in this quote from Ethan Mollick, he talks about controlled experiments where they sing 30 to 80% performance improvements for tasks ranging from coding to writing to marketing activities and the creation of business materials. Now, I think those numbers are going to look really small once we start to fold the capabilities of these tools into our daily workflows. I wouldn't be surprised if we started seeing 2x, 5x, 10x improvements in the way that we can accomplish things from a quality perspective and efficiency perspective. So once you start to imagine the possibilities of these tools and how they can improve the way that you do things every day, one of the first things to do, of course, is identify use cases. It's a really important part of the Marketing AI Council effort. Specific things that you want to leverage the AI large learning models for. So how do you do that? Some of them are going to be obvious to you, but when you want to really dig deep and uncover all the use cases, start by asking these questions. Is this activity data-driven? Meaning, do I review activity, review data, ingest data, and synthesize data in order to create an outcome? Then you most likely have a use case there. Another question to ask is whether the task is repetitive. Is the same thing done using the same steps that can easily be documented for then you probably definitely have a use case there. And a lot of us experience those things that we do over and over again that are easily documented, easily repeated. Then finally, you can ask, are you trying to make predictions? And this isn't just to say that, are you trying to necessarily tell the future? This is really a use case in which you're trying to produce an outcome. That is, you're sending an email and we're trying to predict what subject line will work best. We're creating an ad copy and we're trying to predict what people will respond to the most. If you're trying to predict behavior when you're creating something, then you most likely have a use case. You don't have to have all three of these. You can have just two or even one of them. And as you can see here, there are some sample use cases, things like creating outlines, and which could be outlines for reports, could be PowerPoint presentation outlines, really useful for that. There are use cases for SEO, classifying, drafting. One of the big use cases is you don't have to start with a blank page anymore. It's a big use case. Blank pages can be like a huge barrier to getting started, and this solves for that. You can create a rough draft to get you started and then collaborate and iterate off the initial rough draft within seconds sometimes. Other use cases include simplifying, summarizing, transcribing, and ideating. All of these things are things that you may or may not be aware of that you do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis, where you can find a use case for these tools. And as a quote says here by Paul Ritzer, CEO of Marketing AI Institute, who you should definitely follow and listen to his podcast, this will be the least capable AI we've ever used. And in addition, this also will be the worst way we ever use AI. So we'll be looking back on these tools and the way that we were using them and think how antiquated it was and how simplistic it was, which I say only to illustrate the fact that things are moving so rapidly, that it's good that you're starting now. You're listening to this, you're part of the session. And now that I've given you an overview of what's possible and why it's important for you, your team, your company, to embrace these tools and to scale the effort of making people AI literate, I'll hand it over to Jessica, who will start talking about how to lead with AI.
Thanks, Yadin. And to mention too, we will go through some of our favorite use cases that we use in our day-to-day a bit later in the presentation as well. But first, establishing our AI culture and responsible adoption within our team really started with the creation of our Marketing AI Council, which is why we're so passionate about talking to you all about this today. And our advice on how you can get started begins with our own origin story, starting way back in October of last year with 8 users and a narrow use case for Jasper AI. After ChatGPT launched in November and forever changed our lives, somehow word spread in small pockets of our global marketing org that we were using Jasper. Pretty soon I saw pockets of intrigue, interest, swirl, and some teams with just complete fear about generative AI and its effect on marketing and their roles. So I decided the best thing to do within that chaos was just to get people together, harness our energy, and figure out what we were going to do about it. Shortly after some email threads in early February, we held our first Marketing AI Council meeting with 8 to 10 people. The first meeting was all, is this a good idea? Are you interested? And, what's our charter? How frequently do we want to meet? So now our Marketing AI Council has over 30 people representing every function of our global marketing organization and key stakeholders, including legal, IT, global comms, product marketing, and sales. What I want to show you is more about why to start an AI Council. It allows you to create work streams and a collective effort toward achieving more impactful outcomes than you could ever do alone. On the next slide, you can see some of these tips showing up here too. So by involving others, notably legal, security, and IT, and the sooner the better, you can ensure the work you're doing aligns to broader strategic efforts, as well as ensure you're managing risk and developing responsible principles. The next tip here, you're probably not the only one wanting to kick off use case pilots. But there are going to be others that want to be involved as well. So what use cases will you prioritize as an organization? What metrics matter to you? What's in your existing tech stack versus what do you need to actually test out before you acquire? You heard Yadin cite earlier that in this recent Marketing AI Institute study, 78% of respondents said there was no formal AI education or training. So it's important to note too on this study, this audience is predisposed to AI, right? It's the followers of the Institute. So could be biased, right? Maybe even slightly inflated. But think about your own organization. How are you going to upskill your marketing org to benefit from this new and here to stay technology? We are here today to tell you, you don't have to be the leader of your organization to do that. So, next, maybe I've convinced you that you need to start an AI council. While the saying goes, the first step is always the hardest, I implore you to just get started. Get a group of AI interested people together to talk about it. Feel free to keep it small at first. It doesn't have to include members from all functions to start, but of course, eventually you'll want a fair representation of your organization to ensure really everyone has equal access to influence and information. And in fact, Michelle will be up next to give you more details and tips about each of these beginning steps as well. So next, of course, you want to develop your charter. What's your purpose? What will you as a cross-functional team focus on? For us, it's about evaluating, piloting, and onboarding one or more genAI tools for VMware marketers and our agencies. Within governance, we want to continually evolve our guidance for using genAI tools for marketing ethically and responsibly. We use input, of course, from legal, our Office of this CTO, our CISO, etc., and in line with our brand POV and our customer first approach. Lastly, we set out to emphasize training, of course, and enablement for the use of our approved tools, providing ongoing leadership opportunities within our own global marketing enablement sessions. We curate content and create pathways within our learning hub and develop and publish these best practices. So once you have your general charter and purpose established, yes, it might evolve over time. Just get going. Prioritize and execute. Develop your guidelines, use cases, leadership involvement, and awareness, and dive in. You know, a big lesson that we learned in waiting for our exec sponsor for a couple months that we stalled just slightly. And I wish we would have kept going more aggressively during those first 3 months. Overall, taking this strategic but iterative, phased approach to AI education adoption with this strong leadership has the ability to transform your organization into this culture ripe to innovate with knowledge to leverage the transformational tech that lies in front of us today. So now I'm going to turn it over to Michelle to walk you through from our experience how to establish your genAI guidelines and drive AI literacy throughout your org. Michelle?
Thank you, Jessica. So in our case, back in the February-March timeframe earlier this year, it became apparent that people throughout our company were experimenting with ChatGPT. And because this was a nascent technology, not everyone understood how it worked or the fact that their inputs could become public information. So we knew we needed to put some guardrails in place quickly, and we couldn't afford to just wait around for someone on the outside to tell us what to do. So we went ahead and drafted just some basic guidance around using genAI tools for marketing. And we organized our guidance around do's and don'ts, knowing that we couldn't just make a blanket statement to avoid ChatGPT until we could figure it out. So for example, in our initial draft of guidelines, we had directions such as do use genAI tools such as ChatGPT to ideate and to jumpstart your copywriting. Then apply a human touch to refine your content. Don't enter any confidential or proprietary information into the genAI tool. Do ensure that your final copy reflects VMware's unique voice and tone and that it adheres to our corporate style guidelines. Do not use genAI tools to create, edit, or source photography, videography, or illustration because we cannot prove usage rights. So when we finished drafting our initial guidelines for marketing, we shared them with our legal team for their input and approval. And then we went ahead and published the guidelines on our intranet site. So this was, I think, the third week of March. And unbeknownst to us, our CTO and Chief Information Security Officer were in parallel developing a company-wide responsible use policy around generative AI. So 1 week later, they published their first iteration of this policy on our intranet. And fortunately, they had learned about our marketing specific guidelines and included a link to them for their policy document, or from their policy document. And so now, because we showed that early leadership in this area, we opened the opportunity to collaborate with senior technology leaders in our company on updating and evolving our corporate policy and influencing the direction it takes. So getting our usage guidelines out the door Also, it quickly gave us that essential point of reference to share in conversations that were going on all throughout the company. But it wasn't a one and done approach. To really mitigate security and privacy concerns, we knew we needed to provide a safer alternative to ChatGPT. So, fortunately, we already had a pilot in progress, and we were preparing to roll out our own private instance of a commercial GenAI tool. So, this, of course, would allow us to use the technology safely and effectively. So, we leveraged our guidelines and other communication channels to share the status of this pilot and to assure our colleagues that a better alternative was coming. So, over the past few months, we've been updating those guidelines regularly to reflect changes in the GenAI landscape, as well as to communicate the availability of our tools. And we fully expect these guidelines to continue to be a living and breathing document. So, when it comes to creating guidelines for your own organization, you'll want to consider the level of AI maturity among your users and the current availability and use of GenAI tools in your organization, and then formulate guidance based on your specific environment and use cases. Be sure to consult with your legal team, as well as with any GenAI experts you have in-house or externally, to determine what's acceptable and what is safe, acceptable use for your organization. And as you're going through this process, also think carefully about ethical use of AI. This is a really important area. There's been a lot of talk and concern about it. So it's an opportunity, though, to make sure that your AI principles and policies reflect your company's values. So, for example, if you have corporate DEI goals, these should extend to GenAI adoption, and it should translate into equitable access and training across roles and geographies. So that brings me to the topic of promoting AI literacy and adoption, one of my favorite topics. So we cannot overstate the importance of education. Successful, responsible adoption of AI is 100% predicated on education. And the good news is there are so many great resources available today. As Yadin mentioned, we're big fans of the Marketing AI Institute, which offers free classes. They also have an in-depth paid certification course that we've all been taking. And there are tons of freely available talks, webinars, online materials to pull from. So getting access to education should not be a barrier. But for people to really learn generative AI, they have to use it. And let's face it, most everyone has been playing around with, at least with ChatGPT for some time now. But you can really make a difference in your organization by researching and recommending the tools that are a good fit for your company. So this is, again, where having support from leadership is key, because the safest and most customizable tools out there come at a cost. So you'll need that budget. And once you've overcome that hurdle, you can encourage your colleagues to use GenAI every day for all kinds of different tasks, because that's the best way to really uncover the true value of the tools and to spark ideas of different ways to use them in your day-to-day work. It's also important always to keep pace with the new capabilities, because one day your tool may suddenly be able to do something that it couldn't do yesterday. So you got to keep using it and really integrating it into your workflows. And so as all of you experiment, keep track of what works well and also what doesn't. Share your success stories, and don't be afraid to share any cautionary tales along the way. So on the topic of success stories, we've each had some aha moments along the way as we discover awesome use cases for GenAI. So Yadin, did you want to start off with your favorite personal case study?
Bit by the mute bug. Perhaps we can't hear you. We're going to rapid fire this one. So, Michelle, I'm going to start real quick, and then I'll come back to you, Yadin. From a surprising use case, just being able to see everything going across as our GenAI tool business owner, it's been really surprising that your non-writers and content creators will love this too. You naturally think you want to give it to all the writers, but we have some marketing technology leaders who are using it to develop frameworks and analysis. So going from 2 hours to 20 minutes for a decision framework, and from 3 months of very formal, exhaustive platform comparisons and research to getting the same results in our tool in just one prompt. Yadin, what's yours?
Well, I always like to talk about bringing in AI into your own everyday use case or everyday life. your workflows. So one great thing is we had an event. I was shooting a video. I was talking to individuals at the, executives and shooting that video. I was getting a real-time audio feed into text, to a voice to text translator. You can see on the left side of the screen on the far left. And then after I was getting the real-time transcript, I was putting it into our genAI tool, Jasper in our case, and getting an immediate summary of what the talk was, what the key quotes were, and then even be able to get an initial rough cut of what that video would be within seconds, where previously it would take weeks to do that. Michelle, what's yours?
Well, my big aha moment came when I realized that I could turn one of my least favorite things, namely meetings, into something way more appealing, which are meeting summaries. So auto-generated meeting recaps mean that I don't have to worry about taking notes during meetings, which I'm terrible at anyway. I don't have to worry about forgetting what my action items are the moment the meeting ends, which of course I've never done before. I don't need to wonder what I missed when I took myself off camera and ran to the kitchen for a snack. And best of all, I never, ever have to listen to the recording of a meeting that I couldn't attend, which, to be honest, I never actually do anyway. I only tell myself I will. So now I can feed my AI tool a meeting transcript or an audio or video file, and in seconds, it spits out a recap that includes like participant names, key discussion topics, decisions made, next steps, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, this is a game changer that definitely benefits my day-to-day work life.
I love that, Michelle. We got to wrap it up, folks, but we have an AI Council blueprint for you. We wanted to leave you with today. Our biggest key takeaway here is just to get started. So here are some steps that you can take on the next slide. I think it's 6 steps, right, that you can do right away to start your AI Council journey. So take this away. We hope that that you screenshot this slide or save it. We hope that you feel free to contact us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, we'd love to talk about this for much longer and more. And we hope to hear from you soon and hear more about your progress. We hope we inspired you today to get started in Marketing AI Council. Thanks to this team, and thanks for being here at Demand 2023.